Hi everyone, let us start the rotational motion, our next chapter. So before we start rotational motion, we need to talk about rigid body. So what are our rigid body? So ideally a system of particles is said to be rigid if the distance between any two particles is not changing. It is a constant no matter what force you apply. For example, if we talk about a solid rod, like this is marker, this is a solid marker. Now if I try to bend it, then I can break it, right? If I break it or bend it, then this will become in this shape. So when that happens, the distance between these 2 points is changing. Initially it was like that. So now when they are coming over here, the distance between them is also changing. So this is not a rigid body. Rigid body is like a perfect solid where the distance can't be changed no matter how much force you apply. Now, if we talk about the motion of a rigid body, then there are two types of motion. One is pure translation motion and another is pure rotational motion. Let us discuss them one by one. So first is pure translation motion. So pure translation motion, basically a rigid body is said to be in pure translation motion if each of its constituent particles, each and every particle undergoes the same displacement as every other particle in any given interval of time. For example, when your car moves, right? So whatever is the front part of your car moves by some displacement. By the same displacement is there for the back part of your car as well. So car is doing the translatory motion, right? Now let us discuss one more example. So this is a simple physics example, that sliding motion of a block down the inclined plane. So if we say that this block reaches over here in some particular time t, and if this point is A, then can I say the A is moving like that? This is the displacement vector for A. And if I talk about this particle, let us say this is B, then B moves all the way up to here in the same amount of duration delta t. If we talk about another particle which is C over here, then this is how C moves. So as you can see, displacement vector for particle A, particle B and particle C all are same, and that is the displacement of the entire body as well. So we can say the rigid body, a rigid body if undergoing translation motion or pure translation motion, then each and every particle lying in the body experiences the same displacement and for any given interval of time. Now that is your velocity. So we can say not only displacement but the velocity or even the acceleration is also same. Now let us discuss the pure rotational motion of a rigid body. So what is pure rotational motion? In pure rotational motion of a rigid body about a fixed axis. So pure rotational motion, rotation always happens about a fixed axis. If every particle of the body moves in a circle, so whenever pure rotational motion takes place, each and every particle is undergoing a circular motion. What is the property of that circle? That it lies in the plane. The circle lie in the plane perpendicular to that particular axis and its center lying on the axis. Let us take an example and understand this thing. If we are taking the example of a ceiling fan, then ceiling fan is rotating, right? As ceiling fan rotate, take any point on the ceiling fan. What is the motion of that ceiling fan? So of that particle. So this particle A lying on the ceiling fan is basically goes over here and comes back. As it moves, it is basically performing a circular motion all the way. And if we think about this circular motion, the center of that circular motion is lying on the axis. This is the axis about which the ceiling fan is rotating. So on that axis, this center is lying, not just this particle. If we take another particle, let's say this particle B, then B is moving all the way like this. So B is also performing a circular motion and its plane is also perpendicular to this axis and its center is also lying on the axis. So each and every particle rotates. So in rotation or in pure rotation to be precise, each and every particle is just performing individually. It is just performing the circular motion and with its center lying on the axis. For 2D object, all the centers will also be same. If it is a 3D object, then their center might differ, but they all will lie on the axis with their plane perpendicular to the axis. Now, let us discuss about kinematics of rotational motion. So first in kinematics is the angular displacement. So like a normal displacement in rotational motion, we get the angular displacement. So what is angular displacement? It is nothing but the angle rotated by the reference vector line of the moving particle. So see, this particle is over here. When this is doing pure rotational motion, let's say a circular motion, right? So when this particle is moving along the circle, if we say the center, this line, the radius vector, it is rotating by this much. So the angle covered by that is the angular displacement. So angular displacement is nothing but just an angle, right? So if we talk about SI unit, its SI unit is same as the normal SI unit of an angle. It is just an angle, right? But just with a reference line. So our reference line is rotating by how much? So this is just an angle, and SI unit of all the angles is basically radians. Now it is a vector quantity. So if it is a vector quantity, what is its direction? So for normal displacement, we know that if object is moving from here to here, then that is the direction, right? Here in this case, the direction is given by right hand rule. So basically take your right hand, and here the angle is being covered in anti-clockwise manner. So if you turn it in anti-clockwise manner, your thumb will be pointing, thumb of the right hand will be pointing into the plane of the paper. So direction of theta is into the plane of the paper in this particular case. So generally if it is anti-clockwise, then it is out of the plane of the paper. And if it is clockwise, then it is into the plane of the paper. In this case, it is moving clockwise. So we will say into the plane of the paper. So direction of angular displacement is same as perpendicular to the plane, and it is passing through the center. So kind of it's along the axis, right? Let us discuss the next thing, that is angular velocity. If we talk about angular velocity, it is defined as the rate at which the position vector of a particle with respect to the center rotates, or we can also say the rate of change in angular displacement is called the angular velocity with respect to center. So there are two types of angular velocity. First is the average angular velocity. What is average angular velocity? So average angular velocity is defined as the total angle of rotation divided by total time taken. Now, if our angle is changing from theta 1 to theta 2, when time is changing from t1 to t2, then you can say how much is the angle of rotation? Theta 2 minus theta 1. And what is the time duration? The total time taken is t2 minus t1. So this is known as delta theta, the change in angular displacement or angular displacement done in that particular duration, and this is the time interval, right? So delta t. So this is your average angular velocity. Next is instantaneous angular velocity. How do you define instantaneous? It is basically angular velocity at a particular moment. Now to make that a moment, we say that delta t, the time duration, approaches 0. So when the delta t approaches 0, the duration becomes so small that that small duration is similar to just a particular moment. So I will say that it is time approaching to 0, the average angular velocity. So when the time approaches 0, this time duration becomes infinitely small time duration, and that is written as dt. And what about delta theta? When duration is very small, the change in angular displacement is also going to be very small, so it becomes d theta. So this is how we defined our omega, that is d theta by dt, that is your instantaneous angular velocity. Next is angular acceleration. So what is angular acceleration? Angular acceleration is again the rate of change in angular velocity. So there are two types of angular acceleration as well. First is average angular acceleration. So how do you define average? Again, if omega 1 and omega 2, they are basically two instantaneous velocities or speeds we are just talking about the magnitudes. Angular speed is just the magnitude of angular velocity at two different times, t1 and t2. Then the average angular acceleration is defined as the change in angular velocity, that is omega 2 minus omega 1 divided by change in the time, or you can say time duration. So this is defined as delta omega by delta t. That's your average angular acceleration, which is written as alpha. Alpha is the symbol. And what about the SI unit? So if we talk about the SI unit, then see the angle for SI unit for theta was radian, the omega, the angular velocity, is basically change in angular displacement divided by time taken. So it is radian per second. And now the SI unit of alpha is going to be the change in angular velocity divided by time taken. So it will be radian per second square. Like this is a vector quantity, these two are also vector quantities. And now let us discuss the instantaneous angular acceleration. So what is instantaneous angular acceleration? Again, same thing. We will say as delta t approaches 0 in average angular acceleration, it becomes instantaneous angular acceleration. So we will say delta t approaches 0 in delta omega by delta t, that is the average angular acceleration, and time is approaching 0. So this becomes very small change in angular velocity, and this becomes very small change in the duration. So next formula which we get is that alpha, instantaneous angular acceleration, is d omega by dt. Now I can also say we can multiply and divide with d theta and d theta. I am saying take this thing separately. So what is d theta by dt? D theta by dt is basically angular displacement by time taken. That is nothing but instantaneous angular velocity omega. So this thing is omega, and we are left with d omega over here and dt over here. Sorry, d theta over here. So we get alpha is equal to omega d omega by d theta. So next formula which comes is alpha is equal to either d omega by dt or omega d omega by d theta. So like acceleration is nothing but dv by dt or v dv by dx. So similarly, instead of velocity we are using angular velocity, and instead of acceleration we are getting angular acceleration. And here instead of x we are using the angular displacement d theta. So this is similar formula to the acceleration formula which we have already discussed and studied in previous chapters. So final formula, like for alpha we have d omega by dt or omega d omega by d theta. This formula is important, so you need to remember this. Let us move to next thing. Relationship between linear and angular velocities. So how are linear and angular velocities are related? For that I am considering a circle. Okay, so here if we define the omega, it is defined as d theta by dt, or we'll say this is instantaneous which I am doing. So this say limit delta t approaches average angular velocity. Now if we want to get the relationship between linear parameter and angular parameter, I'll say that delta s, the distance covered over here, the distance AB, is nothing but this is related to the angle by this. So we can say that delta s is nothing but r delta theta. What is r? R is the radius of that circle on which the particle is performing the rotation. Now we say the linear distance AB is given by delta s is equal to r delta theta. We had already discussed. Now if we put the value of delta theta over here, then we say that our normal velocity, how do we define it? Normal velocity is defined as limit delta t approaches the displacement divided by time taken, or ds by dt. And now if we put the s as r delta theta divided by delta t, this r is the radius of the circle which is going to remain constant. Constant can come out. So we'll say r times limit delta t approaches 0 delta theta by delta t, and which is nothing but this thing is our omega, as you can see. So this is r omega. So at the end we can say the linear velocity v is related to the angular velocity as v is equal to r omega. So this is the relationship which we get, and this is again going to be an important relationship which you need to remember. Now let us discuss the radial and tangential acceleration. So when a particle performs rotation, it just doesn't have a single acceleration. There are two accelerations. So one acceleration is basically AT, which is along the tangent, and another is basically AR, which is along towards the center. So if we talk about these two, then of these first one, the AT, it is along the tangent, is called the tangential acceleration. And the one which is towards the center is called either the radial or centripetal acceleration, AR. Let us discuss them one by one. So first is our tangential acceleration. So how do we define tangential acceleration? Tangential acceleration is defined as dv by dt, where v is kind of speed. The tangential acceleration changes the speed at which the particle is performing circular motion. If the speed of the particle is same, then the AT is going to be 0. We know that v is nothing but r omega. So we can also write it is d by dt of r omega. Again, since radius is constant, it becomes r d omega by dt, and d omega by dt is nothing but alpha. So AT is given by r alpha. So if alpha is 0, then omega won't change. So if omega won't change, r won't change. So basically we say that if speed or angular speed, they are not changing, then alpha or AT, both are going to be 0. Next is the radial acceleration. So radial acceleration is given by r omega square, or we can say r omega times omega. So this is basically v. So it can also be written as, and if we multiply and divide with r, so this is basically v square divided by r. So radial acceleration is given by v square by r or omega square r. So this is the radial acceleration, this is towards the center. So what is the job of radial acceleration? Radial acceleration basically, we know that tangential acceleration changes what? Tangential acceleration changes the speed of rotation. But what about the radial one? Radial one basically it changes the direction without change in speed. So if we talk about a particle which is performing uniform circular motion, it is only going to, for uniform circular motion, there is only going to be AR, but AT is going to be 0 because the speed is not going to change. Particle is just, velocity is changing, but only direction is changing. So that is the job of AR. But what about AT? Due to AT, basically the speed changes. So if we talk about the overall acceleration, so for a net acceleration, I would say that there are two accelerations. One is AR and one is AT. AR is always directed towards the center. This is the center of the circle, and AR is directed towards that. AT is always tangential if it is present. Now this might be 0 if we are talking about uniform circular motion, and this will be non-zero. So if we are talking about this, just the circular motion, so AT might be 0 or non-zero, that depends. That speed of the particle is changing or not changing, or we can say angular velocity or angular speed is changing or not changing. So these two are vector quantity. When we add them, this is how our net acceleration looks like. And this is simply, since the angle between AT and AR is always 90 degree. So we can say that our overall acceleration can be like, we can directly use Pythagoras theorem to add these two vectors. So we'll say it is given by under root AR square plus AT square. What is our AR? We had already discussed that AR is basically R omega square or V square by R. And what about AT? It is nothing but dV by dt. So if we say that this formula is nothing but the acceleration, net acceleration is given by AR square, which is R omega square whole square, plus dV by dt whole square. So this is how we give the net acceleration when a particle is performing rotational motion.